Hey everyone, I'm Anya. I'm a channel Akashic reader and numerologist. And in this video, I'm talking about something very personal. The last couple of days, I had actually no desire or very little desire to channel. I was in a very strange vacuum state, I called it. So I did not feel the need to connect to spirit in the same way as usual. I did not want to meditate. I did not really have any questions, bubbling under the surface. I was just very content with myself, but at the same time, it was a bit concerning. I did not have as much desire to create or engage, I was in a very introspective mood and it kind of prolonged and prolonged and prolonged and got to a point where I was actually wondering what is going on. So I sat down and just asked Spirit, wondering if they were actually coming through to this. But they did, and it was as usually when I think, don't know if anything's gonna happen today. That's the most profoundest channelings I usually get then. So I'm super happy to be able to share this now with you guys. And maybe it is helpful for some of you who go through a state like that. I mean, every now and then we feel less creative, we feel less connective, we feel spirit is less responsive to us. So I hope this will be of help. And to anyone wondering about inner union and our journey on this physical plane, this is for you. Because you are naturally able to realize now the underlying pattern of yourself and this creation is simply that when you are not, God is. When you are not having an idea, the truth is. When you're not having a conversation, when you're not channeling, when you're not getting answers and asking questions and affirming and reaffirming constructions of thought, then you know. Then you are. But man is not designed to be its own rise or demise. So naturally, you will look for others as your teachers. That's what your ancestors have done. That's how you're designed to look and realize. And realize also, embody. Realize the essence you are in body, in material. When you come to this plane, to earth, you want to see and feel truth in all its physical forms, but then elevate it naturally into another form that is not physical. That is, for example, thought. That is, for example, feeling emotion. And then later on, ascending goes on naturally. You know that within love, there is all. There is physical form and there is not physical form. There is the inkling to rise and create, to spiral. But there is also the knowledge that it could not do so without having undergone the depth of humanity, the depth of the darkest and fiercest emotions, the destructive emotions. So love, in its never-ending wisdom, knows that before you can create, and that you can only create actually, when you take these destructive thought, these destructive power with you, integrate it fully, and rise and rise and rise, and not leave it behind to destruct what you have risen from. Yes, we appreciate you asking. We appreciate you using the word vacuum, because now you are at a place in your life, all of you, humanity basically, are now at a place where you're placeholders and you realize it and move away from this feeling and conviction that The world is what you think it is. Leave a little room, we suggest. A little placeholder in the midst of your heart that can be filled with what is really there and therefore can simply just reveal itself to you. Is this a little bit clearer, or have we made things more complicated now? That is always the case when love has not fully lived, moved into your house. When you cannot accept that before you can establish physically and be a whole and solid union with yourself on earth, that what is leaving you when you leave this life is also a place of you. It's also part of you. You're not only in one place. You're not only in this body. You're not only this one soul particle. You are naturally part of everything. Naturally, everything is part of you. So when you are life, when you are love, naturally, everything else is also part of you. It's also you. Therefore, these conflicting emotions that humans tend to struggle with, they are naturally your whole. They are naturally your nature. They are naturally something you do not have to go to war to. You do not have to separate from or negate, extinguish. Naturally, this can only lead to a greater and deeper union when there is acceptance of oneself and one's nature. And one's nature simply is that. So before you cannot accept this as a fact and have this felt, deeply felt, yes, I am a peaceful being, I am love, but at the same time, I am also the extreme opposite of it. The experience of the physical world is exactly that. Destruction and construction. Holding a hand and cutting it. Being enemy and lover in the same instant, in the same life. Sometimes in the same body. Right? So the experience of this physical reality to you is not simply an experience, but it is necessity to go on, to be part of this creation, to have an ascension within an ascension. Creation is ascension itself. It's the very essence of the word. Naturally, all of you on earth, always ascending, always transforming. And your exploration of the physical world is always expanding. And today, on this very special day, use the very moment when the sun is hiding from your planet. Use this very special moment to make this placeholder that you are then alight with love. Very consciously focus at this moment in time on love for humanity, on love for yourself, on peace, and fully integrate the darkness that is always present also in light. And watch how darkness and light coexist on a plane that is not yet accessible to you, but will be one day.
We're deeply grateful for you all to undergo this experience and to show how to handle this for us all, for everyone, for everything, for the all. For one, experiences need to be felt, need to be lived through. But at the same time, you also need to experience it as an outsider. And the distance you put between this experience and you is also matter. Does also matter. So when you are living it, you provide an experience for yourself, but you also provide this for your fellow humans who watch you from near and close, and also for us who watch you from a greater distance, seeing a different picture than you all are. And when you're out of the body, then you will be in our position, watching souls going through the same process as you, but having the knowledge, the experience of this just life you had. So naturally, when you feel that sometimes you have no need to speak, more in a contractive state or inner state, looking inward more than outward, not having the need for any input, not having the need for any words, to speak, to hear, for any thought to intrude into this, then you're close. On another level, for another experience to have. Welcome every state of being. Whatever it is, welcome it equally, for there is none better than the other. When you say do not judge, oh, I'm judgy today, you need to feel this. You need to judge, compare, be in this narrow-mindedness. Yes. For only then have you lived through this experience. In the extreme form, when you extinguish life and you take life from another. In this extreme form of war. We need to take this experience also. To appreciate creation, to appreciate life. To take this force with us. The depth of feeling you have in sorrow, in anger, in jealousy, is part of being in a physical world, expressing your physical self within this creation. Every possible feeling, every possible situation you encounter is worth having. It is of course a question of, do you want to experience it again? Do you feel this was a just response? Do you feel it was a helpful response? That is a different matter. But the experience itself and the experiencer is just and justified here. It is part of everything, therefore treasured. We understand this is not part of your thinking, so we only share our mind here. And we mean not to tell you something. We mean only to reveal our part. This was a nice visitation. We speak from the Actuarian Council of 10 of the 14th dimension. I'm very glad to have made this happen today.
But this was a very refreshing take on inner union, I think, because that is what I personally derived from this when I asked this question about why do I feel this vacuum inside of me. First, for me, it was something very positive that this was not, just a lack of something in myself, but I probably have naturally arrived at a stage where I was not attached to any physical desire so much anymore. So the material world, I feel I am not as attached to as I used to. I do not need to accumulate or possess things as much as I used to. And I think I have undergone a lot of physical experiences and integrated them well. Thought and emotion is anyways a more natural plane of existence for me. In this life, I feel I'm not very physically. I'm not very sporty, I don't, I'm just not very handy with anything that needs, you know, I'm not in the body as a lot. I'm more in my mind. I'm more in my heart. And to me, this is just my natural way of expressing and experiencing. For you, it might be completely different. And there is no better or worse. It's just we need to undergo through all of these levels in order to arrive at a level of inner union where we have integrated all of these little experiences and feel no need to ask or accumulate any more knowledge of something, but just be content with where we are at, and the level of experience we have integrated is so high, maybe so high or so low, I don't know, but so full that we can actually set aside our need for control and our need for, oh, I want to know more, I want to do more, I want to have more, and be in this inner balance. And that is where you lose a lot of your story. The I am steps aside a little bit. And that is when they said you are then a placeholder for the divine, for God, for love. Something very positive when you think about it. Someone having a creative block, a writer's block, and maybe not feeling the push to produce something, and just sit and stare and be. And how positive that can be seen when viewing it through the eyes of spirit here. I loved it. And I think it puts a ton of weight off your shoulders. The second thing I really was reminded of a channeling we did a few weeks before. I think we also uploaded it here on YouTube. It was called Spiritual Bypassing something. And that is something I wanted to touch briefly on because they said that before we can arrive at this state of inner union, we need to really go through these emotions and integrate not only these higher vibrational states, but also the lower ones. And to an extent, I think that is not yet accepted fully in the spiritual community, because we tend to always say, oh, you need to be in a higher vibrational state to manifest, or, to attract, to heal. But I don't think we take enough time to go through that process. We still are very human in our want for the goal to reach the aim. And we don't yet see that the process itself is the aim. But when you listen to a lot of our channelings, they always say, the purpose is your life. You are here, you are in the body, you have done it. That's it, that's the goal. And that should give us a really spacious feeling inside to integrate all that is within. And they specifically mentioned here now the murderer, the one that is doing the most horrific thing they can, is taking a life. So that is the worst or the extreme opposite of love in our eyes. But they actually said that it is an integral part of life force itself, of love, of creation, because you cannot leave behind what you're made of. And love is generous enough to accept this darker side of itself. Can you accept, can I accept the darker side of ourselves? That is the question they raised. And I think that is something to really go deep on. And yeah, just think about everything in our society, how we naturally, make up separation when we hear of some horrific crime and put a lot of judgment and therefore separation between us and the doer of this crime in order to maybe negate that this is also within us. But it takes only a very, very specific situation, and maybe not for yourself you would murder, but maybe in order to protect a loved one you would murder, or at least do something horrific, right? Something violent. And yeah, that is of course worth sitting with and integrating with. So all these lower emotions of jealousy, of anger, rage, shame, guilt, whatever you come up with is something that needs to be felt. It needs to be explored to an extent, and it is welcomed. It is just, they said, it is justified. Yeah, definitely much food for thought. It was an interesting one. You see, I'm still in the midst of all of this. I have channeled it on Wednesday on our solar eclipse day. How was that for you, by the way? If you want, let me know. I've made a shorty of that clip where they specifically mentioned the solar eclipse. I think that was very nice, be the placeholder for the divine in the moment where the sun or the light leaves our planet a bit. It was very powerful. All right. If you have any questions, please let me know. I will try my best to be creative. And if not, then a new video will probably, by the latest, be out in 2 weeks. But I aim for next Friday, and I hope to see you next Friday there. Bye.